All right, welcome to Two Guys with Spare Time Talk NBA playoffs. Well, I'll talk NBA playoffs. Looks like you're going to have a yawn about the NBA playoffs. Is that what's going on there in
No, no, no,
in
no.
in?
You started the broadcast not as
I,
a yawn.
I clicked it at
Okay,
the
that's
best moment
smart.
to get our show underway. Clearly, we're highly energetic and ready to talk about where these
Oh
series are.
man,
Man, you sent
I'm
me
keen to go.
you
Keen
sent
to
me a
go.
message. You got some opinions, obviously, about these T-Wolves. I've got some opinions about the Knicks. And did you notice also the draft lottery came into Atlanta City, right? Good
Was
on them, right?
under
So
the radar, huh? Under
yeah,
the
crazy,
radar.
crazy.
That
What?
is
But
well.
what do you want to start with?
I feel like let's start. Let's start with Denver and Minnesota because it is the big talking point. It's the most unique series that we currently have, and I guess if you had to put a percentage chance out of each of the matchups for one of the winners to go on to win the championship, so e.g., if Denver or Minnesota wins this, their chances of winning the title are quite high because you look at the rest of the brackets and you feel confident that Minnesota and the Nuggets currently feel like the best teams, or at least two or three of the best teams. So, um, very unique series in that the away team has won every game so far. So, obviously everyone knee jerked to, oh my God, Denver's done after Minnesota really kind of handles them for two straight games. And then Denver comes back to Minnesota and kind of does the exact same thing. And
Hmm.
now it's tied up and home court's restored and it's a 3 game series and however how you want to frame it. And um, I think I picked the Minnesota Timberwolves in 6. I think I swerved on this one. And I mean, it's interesting. If the roles were reversed and Denver won the first 2 games and Minnesota just won their two, we'd probably be using that momentum to say, oh, well, maybe Minnesota's got a shot. I feel like at this point, Denver's probably taken one of the strongest punches that a rating champion could take. They've responded very well, and I think they're going to carry that momentum through. I actually think they're going to roll through now and get this in 6, and this is probably as scary as it's going to get for Denver along the way. I think you're seeing the issue of Minnesota that we highlighted in some of our discussions. And Edwards is one of the offspring of Michael Jordan that we've clearly been unaware of until now. And he's fantastic. But Minnesota still needs a little bit of roster shuffling to fix it. Most obvious candidate is Cat. Cat's very talented, but it's just not at that consistent level. I know a lot of people today were trying to blame Gobert for certain things. It's not his role. Gobert's role is not to be the second best offensive player on the team. It is supposed to be Cat, and it just hasn't panned out. So I think Denver's going to keep this momentum going now. I think the experience has given a bit of a wake up, and I think they're going to be better from it, and they're going to get it in 6.
Man, you
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 agree?
you
Clearly,
you
let's move
you you
on.
you make me laugh every week, man. Like, could you be the most poster boy for freaking, jumping on trains and jumping off trains sometimes, right? You
Wow.
you you did you just said earlier, and I believe you are correct that you swerved and you went with the T-Wolves, and right now it's
Mhm.
2-2. I can't believe that you're just not gonna ride them until an outcome occurs right now. You're literally talking about trading Cat. You're talking about Ant Edwards ain't enough. I believe he got another career high today. Yeah, I think 44 points or something. I think that topped his 43-point game, but no one really talked
It
about
was
it
a franchise one,
because
too.
they lost. Yeah, because they lost. Yeah, and that's important. But at the end of the day, this is tied 2-2. I picked the Nuggets, and right now I'm saying Nuggets in 7, and I think it's going to go all the way. And when it goes to 7, let's be clear, that's one game now. You're playing now one game. Yeah, after all this grind and lots of money for ownership there and for the organizations, the more games, the more money, right? It comes down to one game, 48 minutes, and the team that shows up better, and either of these teams, like you said, are contenders in this sense this year. Um, can walk away with a W. And look, I think the Nuggets have the experience. They have Jokic. They have, Murray now has showed up and started to, really put an imprint on the series. And I saw AG crazy, right? 11 from 12 today. What a crazy stat line. This is the guy that
Hmm.
Orlando couldn't find some sort of role for, and now he goes to the Nuggets and, obviously he's playing his role perfectly in that sort of sense. And yeah, look, I think it's going to go a wire. So I'm basically saying the next 2 games are going to get split. It's going to go back to Game 7 here in Denver. and I guess I'm saying Denver's going to get it. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't be jumping off the T-Wolves bandwagon right now. But hey, you're already like, let's trade everyone, even though we're only tied in the middle of this series, huh?
I'm already ready for the off-season moves pod that we're overdue.
So when the T-Wolves win through the next round, I'm going to play this back for you, right? And
you know what? You know what? I've said enough stuff now that I should have been clipped and then it should have been used against me. Both of us don't have the time to do that, so I'm pretty scot-free
you feel relaxed now about these statements.
I can do it. I can say what I want, and then it never
on.
catches up with me. And anytime someone posts a comment, it's never coherent enough to actually be, worthwhile reacting to. So I feel like it's a low stakes.
I feel like you're almost taunting me now to make some more clips and put them on Instagram just to.
I mean, you do what you want. You do what you want. I remember, I think it's been a while since I've been called the white guy. Really, that's what I'm missing at this point in my life. Let's do the other West series. We'll keep it in the conference. A little bit more, I guess, back and forth, or at least, we'll go maybe one game at a time. I could see that being a reality. OKC versus Dallas. Dallas going up 2-1. And Luka obviously doing Luka-related things, but it's been Kyrie that's kind of sealed games for him. But then PJ Washington also playing out of his mind. Really wish he did that at the end of the fantasy season, but that's okay. And obviously, OKC's got some things to consider. The main one being Josh Giddey really shouldn't be touching the court in this series. It's just not working for him. His plus minus is atrocious.
I don't know if I agree with this hate, but go on, keep going on.
No, the Josh Giddey stats, he's almost like a minus 30 or a minus 40 for the series. He has not been effective while he's been on the court. He hasn't done anything productive.
So the fact that OKC are down one, down 2 games right now is due to Josh Giddey.
I think it's an element of it. I think lineups are really important. I think you'd know that as a coach, that if you put the wrong lineup out there, you can see some really interesting things happen. And Josh Giddey, you can space off Josh Giddey, right? Because he's just not a potent shooter, and he's not really doing much when it comes to attacking the rim because Gafford is pretty much locking that down. I don't think.
I'm shocked with your Josh Giddey take right now. I just opened up the box scores here, which I had looked at obviously when that game was completed a day ago now. Josh Giddey played 13 minutes in game 3, which obviously the Mavs did win and now lead 2-1. Yeah, and Josh Giddey played 13 minutes, shot 4 from 8. Okay, 1 from 4 from 3. Yeah, his plus minus was -1 in the 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, now I think, and again, look. Again, we're not in the coaching staff. Yeah, we're not sitting courtside. Yeah, we're not there behind the scenes. In the locker room. But I think there's a bit of an overreaction here to an organization that has won many games this season, finished with the best record in the West, and simply now making rotational changes. Yeah, Josh Giddey is not -10 in 13 minutes. Okay,
he's -27 in 28.
Well, where are you pulling this stat from? Share this stat?
All good things.
Where are you sharing this stat? Pull it up. Because look, I'm doing that game thing. Let's
a very good article.
You know what? Look, don't worry about. Look, I guess we could look at all. We could break down all 3. I don't have that stat in front of me. Okay, and I guess it's probably not that easy for us to share the screens or whatever in a sense. But I guess let's just look at game 3. Game 3 was pivotal in the sense that obviously the Mavs grabbed and now lead this series. Okay, Josh Giddey was not -27 in game 3. Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make here. Yeah, he was -1 in his minutes on the floor, which is only 13 minutes. That's not a reason to drag a player because you're simply saying this play is the cause of your loss. Yeah, does he not offer floor spacing? Sure. Do you make a coaching decision that goes, you want to put more shooters on? Sure. Okay, but to suggest that Josh Giddey is the reason why OKC lost, I think that's a little bit absurd.
Okay. Then live in your normal land where, you know what, I'm realizing in real time here, have we switched roles? Because I feel like a year ago or even 2 years ago when we first started doing this, I was really the analytical one and the sensible one. And now I feel like I'm constantly saying stuff and you're acting like I'm crazy. And I don't know if we switch roles or not. There is legitimate information out there. It's the first article I pulled up. It says Josh Giddey is minus.
What do you want me to Google? Give me a line to Google
just
right now.
Josh Giddey plus minus for the series.
Josh Giddey plus minus for the series.
don't know why I have to say it like that. You're making it sound like it's unfathomable. It's there.
Okay, all right, sure. So Google now and this OklahomaBloody.com website or whatever it is, in through the two games. Which of these two games? Is this game one and game two?
I'm going to assume it's game one and game two.
Okay, sure. So in the two games which they went 1-1, Josh Giddey played poorly. Okay, so in game three, did he play poorly? Not really. Did he not play much? That's true. Like, what would have happened if you played Josh Giddey another 10 minutes? Would he be a minus 10? I don't know. Maybe. Could he have then been a positive box score in a 4-point margin? Maybe. These are all unknowns and no one's going to know this, yeah? But the reality is that it's an overreaction to the bigger picture here when a player plays poorly. Yeah, pin it all on Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey is not even the best player on the team. Yeah, pin it all on Josh Giddey. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think that's a stretch. Look,
what do you think the key is? What do you think the key is for OKC? Do you think this is an issue of youth? Do you think this is an issue of size? Because obviously they don't have the interior, I guess, backup for Chet to kind of do what they're doing. Like, you know, where would you say they need to pivot? Because they have to now win 3 out of the next 4 games, which I feel like we don't talk about this enough. I know that we often go, oh, well, when they're 3-1 down,
yep.
That's always like the big talking point. But when you go 2-1 down, you know, obviously you need to make up one additional win to tie it. But, you know, OKC does have home court advantage here, but they are going up against an experienced team, which is what we talked about last week.
Yes.
So.
I think you asked me what does OKC need? Well, it's probably not. Well, what do they need is they need a true sidekick for SGA. Yeah. And right now, and it's no knock on them, yeah, we're talking literally about a rookie and a second-year player here in Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. They're not there yet. They're not there yet. Let's look at their careers in 5 years' time. Hell, they could be NBA, or they could be All-Stars, potentially, yeah, at that point, okay? But right there, they're not there yet. Dallas have probably the first and third best player on the floor. Yeah, let's say Luka is the best player and Kyrie is the third. And that is important. And Kyrie is a vet that obviously is still extremely effective as a sidekick. He did that with the Cavs, with LeBron. He knows how to play that role. And Luka, though he's not 100%, is still Luka. He just puts up those numbers and gets that done. Like you mentioned, all right, PJ Washington has played played out of his mind right now so far in this series. All right, you could probably make the argument that the best players through 3 games right now have been 3 out of the 4 best players have been Mavs players. Okay, OKC needs someone to step up, and clearly if you're not going to give minutes for Giddey to step up in that situation, he probably would not. Okay, that's fine. Okay, but someone else has to step up.
I'm okay using Giddey as a scapegoat.
Man, that's the worst take. I feel like you Googled what's going on with the series and you read Josh Giddey is losing it for him, and so you jumped on that bandwagon.
I feel like picking on a white guy is not really too big of a deal. That's not going to really gain much hate from me, so that's pretty easy.
Is Josh Giddey getting traded? I actually saw an Australian website, I think like 9MSN even, like have an article on Josh Giddey and apparently how bad he is and he's getting traded next season. Like, this series is not even over yet. This series, I believe I picked was going 7, and I'm saying this series was going to be a legacy series for Luka. Let's see if his knee holds up. Yeah, that's probably going to be the key right now. Can Luka get through this series? He's clearly seems like he's banged up.
That's the thing as well. Like, it does feel like whoever comes out of this series is probably just getting fed to Denver or Minnesota respectively, right? You're going to have Luka banged up going in against the defending champs or Minnesota if they can figure it out. And then you've got a young OKC team that doesn't have a lot of size going up against 2 teams that really dominate from the inside. So, you know, this series, it's really to put an accolade of getting to the conference finals. For OKC, it's a pretty good stamp getting there that early with this squad. And for, you know, Dallas, it's really just, it's almost like now creating the LeBron narrative, right? Where, well, when's Luka going to get to the finals? And there's going to be that pressure over him. So it'll be interesting, but I don't think it's got the long-lasting implications. And that's my segue into other non-lasting implications. We'll do Knicks and Pacers. So this one's tied up as well, except they defended home court, both teams. And today's game, I was able to watch the highlights, and then I was able to turn them off after about 2 minutes because New York looked like they just ran out of gas. And I can't remember if I picked the Pacers. I think I picked the Knicks, but I should have picked the Pacers, and I think I was like hesitating on picking the Pacers. I think the Pacers are just going to outlast them purely from a minutes perspective. I think that run and gun offensive style just puts a lot of pressure on the New York defense. They're currently just losing players, whether it be due to fatigue, whether it's due to muscle or whatever it was. But yeah, it's not looking good for the Knicks, right? And I don't think anyone's shocked to see that a lineup that was averaging, almost 42 or 43 minutes per player has run out of gas. And Tyrese is obviously looking pretty good now, and Siakam's kind of carried them through that. I don't know. I think Pacers make it through, but again, this is very similar to the OKC and Dallas series because I think that this team gets fed to Boston. So,
Yeah, I think I picked the Knicks to win it all, and I must say right now I'm not feeling great about that pick. I guess some of the variables here, I guess the Knicks have had some injuries. That not helpful. Yeah, any team that's had injuries makes your life so much harder. And they're not necessarily the best players on the team, but they're key players in a team that obviously everyone plays a lot of minutes. Yeah, OG going out now, probably at least the rest of the series. Assuming they get through. Mitch Robertson now obviously a scratch as well. They literally don't have any sort of size behind them. Bogdanovic was I think ruled out not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago now. And all that depth that when they made these moves at the trade deadline sort of has not panned out because then everyone's just banged up now too. And I think like you mentioned, they've run into an opponent here which is a less than ideal matchup. Yeah, because they play heavy minutes, because they've lacked the depth now, because their Pacers play at such a fast pace, ironically, it is not ideal. And in game four, which they dropped here, it was a bit of a blowout. Like you said, you watched the highlights. I looked at the box score earlier, and I think the game was already over by halftime, 20 plus points at that point. It was interesting, though, that when I looked at the box score, we still had DiVincenzo and Brunson play over 30 minutes. And I felt that was foolish. Yeah, I felt that foolish. Yeah, like literally at this point, you'd be shocking that they're playing over 30 minutes. Yeah, I'm literally saying they should have played 5 less minutes. Hell, even 10 less minutes. Okay, but that feels like it is meaningful in the long run here. At the end of the day, it's still tied 2-all. Yeah, at the end of the day, they're still going back to New York now for a critical game five. All right, and I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon. All right, I'm going to stay with the Knicks here. All right, but I think this is going to be a real grind out. Maybe go seven here. Brunson still, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna jump off his bandwagon right now. I've been on it since probably halfway through last season when he got snubbed from the All-Star team, got snubbed from also all NBA selection. Hopefully he makes a team this year. Man, look, I think though the Knicks are running out of gas, they're running out of players, but I think they're still gonna scrape through this round. Are you gonna jump off the bandwagon? I want to hear this, yes or no.
Yep. Yeah, I'm off. I'm on Pacers. So, yeah, look, I think Pacers going to get that. Pacers going to get that little accolade of they made it to the conference finals right after trading for Siakam. Then they look at their offseason, they get some continuity as well. And then, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, I guess, how they move forward. But the problem is that they're moving forward into Boston. So we'll go into Boston and Cleveland. Cleveland had a really nice team game to take game two. And to me, it just felt very reminiscent of game two in Miami, where for some reason they win the first game and they're like, yeah, we're good. And then they drop the second game and then they actually play well thereafter. Obviously, Boston's without Kristaps, and that's the long-term implication for them. What do they look like there? I know that I sent you a text message saying Boston, and that was in reference to me picking who's going to win the NBA championship. It is Boston's title to lose from the Eastern Conference, but I think the better teams are in the West, and Kristaps not being healthy is going to stop them from even being competitive. I think that really, it's overly simplistic, but I think once Denver and Minnesota are done, that will be our NBA champion with an asterisk of Kristaps being healthy. And I know that I'm completely glossing over the fact that Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell's playing fantastic as per normal. Evan Mobley might be coming out of his shell now and actually getting the kind of hype that he was surrounding. But Boston is the better team. They should progress, bar something catastrophic happening. Then they should pretty easily handle Indiana. and then they go into the finals. And if they're healthy, they will be competitive. If Kristaps is not healthy and this calf issue persists, I think Boston is going to be looking at a similar situation, if not a worse situation than they had 2 years ago against Golden State. I actually think that they'll get a sweep or a gentleman's sweep against Denver, and then maybe 6 games against Minnesota. But I'm really being clairvoyant here, so help me out.
Well, right now you're saying obviously the Celtics will get past the Cavs, yeah? And I think Mitchell actually is banged up, I think. Donovan Mitchell is right now is listed day to day as well with some sort of soreness somewhere. Um, look, I look, I don't. I think I picked the Celtics to get this series done. I think Jarrett Allen's around the corner of returning as well. There are these variables. There are these variables. I think at the end of the day, Mitchell has to come out and have some sort of crazy game. Yeah. Okay. And he's their best player. And look, I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. But this game four, well, we're up to game four now. Yeah, is that right? They're up 2-1. Okay. That it's going to be it's a similar sort of situation. This is where the playoffs sort of is why we sort of all watch it a little bit more closely, right? Because these are those opportunities to have career-defining moments. Yeah, and I guess whether like Donovan Mitchell or the Cavs have that sort of ability to manufacture that or not, they are at home. I think that's the big question here. But look, even they pull it off, I think Cavs just have the depth here. I'm not going to look too far ahead because I think Kristaps is going to come back at some point in these playoffs. The question will be, can he stay healthy? Yeah, it wouldn't be shocking he comes back
Yeah.
and then 2 games later, oh my God, it's sore again. I got to be out for another 4 weeks.
Well, it's really interesting, like how the narratives end up just settling into what they've always been, and like not trying to be prolific or anything like that. But Kristaps, I guess, was the big off-season acquisition. Drew Holiday helped shore up their guard rotation, but Kristaps is the difference maker, the X factor, so to speak. And when he's been out, they are a different team. And probably one thing that we didn't touch on: Boston Celtics are a three-point shooting team. I guess you wouldn't envision it or you wouldn't imagine it based off who's on the roster, but their success is wholly dictated by that. And when they shoot poorly, which they did in game 2, they typically lose. So they don't lose often, but if they do lose, they probably didn't shoot well from 3. So it's pretty obvious for them. But the problem is, again, projecting forward, the Western teams will defend a lot better from the 3 than what they're currently going up against. So I guess knowing that the NBA champion is either Denver or Minnesota once they sort it out, do you want to talk about the NBA draft?
How do you know this? I find that you're full of statements today, like you've got some crystal ball you found in the mailbox today or something. I don't know what's going on, man.
So bear with me here, man. But I've been having some dreams.
You just know this, dude.
I've been having dreams. I've been having dreams. Really interesting dreams, right? I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm going to tell you this one. And this is how I know I'm starting to get in touch with my third eye here. I'm feeling like Kyrie during Brooklyn. All right. So I had a dream about a black cat just being in my house, right? I recently moved, got a new house. And then today when I came home from work, right, you would not believe what walks across my driveway. There's a black cat.
I was going to say a Timberwolves or something, right?
I'm seeing the future, okay? There's cats in my dreams and there's cats in reality, man. I don't know about you.
There's a cat on the T-Wolves, right? I see what's going on here, right? Is this how?
Yeah. Did I pick Denver? So wait, do I go back to? I'm not back to Minnesota. 7 games in Minnesota. Let's go.
Your logic is not making any sense right now.
No, there is no logic anymore, man.
Except maybe Cat will end up in the NBL next season, and somehow Shep will get an NBL team or something in the next few years. Is that what you're trying to say? I do not know what you're trying to suggest here, except you're making a lot of really clear statements here that are writing off like half the field that they just have no hope. Is that what you're saying? Because I don't feel that. I actually feel this year I really feel this year it could be anyone's championship. There is no dynasty here to be had. There is no sort of, besides the Nuggets trying to start to create theirs, there is no sort of Hall of Famer leading their team. That's a vet that's going to try to build on their legacy. Again, the Nuggets fill that category with Jokic, obviously, but it's just them and the rest of the field here, and it could be the field.
I think it's Minnesota or Denver, but that's okay.
I love that conversational piece today.
No, but you know what? I'm going to segue this beautifully. Speaking of saying things declaratively
Sure,
when
sure.
statistically they shouldn't
Please,
have
please
happened.
give me the next
Um,
statement here.
the Atlanta Hawks
Yes.
swoop in. Oh my
Oh my
god,
God. Oh my
they
God.
swooped in and
Oh
they
my
get the
God.
first pick.
3% chance of this. 3% chance.
And the big conversation is Detroit has been screwed twice. Um, I've read one nice little conspiracy that Trae Young's going to leave the Hawks, and this is their little like package because then they get the number one pick, similar to how Zion magically ended up in the New Orleans setting after Anthony Davis was out.
Please, what should the
I'm
Hawks do?
gonna
What
I'm
should
gonna
the
swerve
Hawks
on
do?
this one. I'm going to swerve on this one. The whole Detroit had the worst record and they still didn't get the number one pick. Number one, if you ran simulations with the mathematical things applied, which is 14%, they're not a guarantee to win it anyway. But I'm actually going to say here, I think it is a league way of punishing Detroit for being this bad. I think they're kind of like, we're not going to give you a reward here. Figure it out. Actually get some money invested in your team and get yourself sorted because that's embarrassing, and that's how they're approaching it. But that's that off my chest.
Can I just no, I don't want that off your chest right now. Actually, I want to explore what's going on your chest right now and this black cat and your habit to return to NBA conspiracies that have no basis. What are you trying to say here? They weighted ping pong balls. Do they even do ping pong balls anymore? Like what
Well, they
what
do it behind closed doors. So what do you do?
but there's still people there that verify it, and I'm hardly here to bat for that, that there's like nothing going on in the world that's crazy, but I don't think that what's going on in the world that's crazy has got to do with the NBA lottery.
Oh, I think I think this is how I've lost my status. I think the conspiracy Nick, is where it really started for it.
What
I
what
I think I'm judging you for saying there's no way anything suspicious is happening with the NBA lottery. Are you kidding me? The amount of money that's invested in this product, there is a deliberate interest in rigging things.
what
Like I
how would you rig things? You might as well rig things and give.
it's done behind closed doors with verified people.
Fine, you
Do you
might as
know
well,
how much in
you know
this
what,
world gets signed off
they might as
on?
well just give the Lakers the first pick then somehow. How have whatever chance they had, like 0% chance, just rig it. Why not? Zero's a number, right?
Well, I think we both recognize a rookie's not going to change a franchise in the immediate, right? So the whole LeBron thing is that he needs to win now. That's not going to help with a really good rookie, right? It's about longevity. Atlanta had plateaued. They hit the conference finals and they've literally been in the play-in and done nothing since.
Sure.
They now have really the stepping stones to get Alex Sarr, which is the 7'1" kind of unicorn, the next unicorn in line in our league, and hopefully do what that. But it's also a weak draft,
It is a
right?
weak
So
draft. It is a weak draft.
depends on how much you want to view at that. I mean, we're coming down from Chet and Wemby being in the last two. Is Alex Sarr going to be better than those two players? Probably not. But crazier things have happened, and I've projected that Wemby and Chet won't have long careers, so I've just got to wait on that a little bit longer. But Atlanta getting it, it's one of those, I don't know, like, again, if you understand mathematics, it can happen. That's how probability works. It
Correct. They
can
had
happen.
3 out of 100 chances for it to happen, and it happened.
Correct.
So
And it's just like the lottery. If you win the lottery,
correct.
you can sit there and say, I shouldn't have won.
But
You
let's be clear.
did.
The best chances to win the lottery are something like I think about 15%. Yeah, that it's not like your chances were like 95%, and somehow this team came in and swooped in and won it at 3%. 15% is really not a high probability. It's the greatest probability you have by having one of those bottom three records, but it's still not a high probability. That's the reality. And I guess you're really suggesting that you made a statement about the NBA punishing Detroit. You just got no basis. You want to make these statements. I feel, please share me some article here or facts.
Isn't this?
Because
I'm sorry.
because
Isn't this the internet?
is this a
Isn't this
dream
the
that you
internet?
had too, or did this cat just also then
No,
tell
there
you
was no
that there's
dream.
something
Well,
ongoing here?
you know
What's going
what?
on?
I feel like my cars have been a little funny, and so the pistons might be the problem there. And I reckon that just correlates directly. If
There is no stand-up comedian job for you, I think, in the
are you
in the near
serious?
future.
I feel like that was clever. I think it's cerebral, is what it was.
So
I think
how
it
about
was.
we actually look at the fact that the Hawks have got the number one pick here? What should they do with it? Like, are you feeling Alex Sarr is the way to go here? Do they draft Alex Sarr and go one more season with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, or is there a big shake-up here? Because without the number one pick, there was probably the shake-up that Trae Young's been shopped around. But now, do you hold on to him for one more year?
Well, this is also when you have a draft pick in a draft that's not overly strong, perhaps this is where you look to trade it, right? So what can they get for one of their guards and the number one pick? And who's willing to bite on that? Admittedly, I don't know. Like, the hard part with Atlanta is I don't know where they go. You look at their team on paper and you would figure they should be having more success, right? They've got two pretty good guards that should average 20 points. They've got Bogdanovic, which really, I don't think he's as good as he's advertised, but he's still a pretty good wing player. You've got Clint Capella. You've got a Conwu who's kind of coming into it. They have the makings of a good team, but I guess if you put their 5-man lineup against any other 5-man lineup, most of the time they seem to come up short in most of the categories, and it doesn't really make sense why. They've got a good coach as well. So why have they plateaued? And that's the hard thing. What do you trade for here? Do you trade for a superstar? Well, the new CBA makes things a lot more complicated than ever to get trades. Do they sign someone like Paul George and give Clippers some like salary cap thing? This Paul George nonsense as well. I'm sorry to detour here, but he's the big free agent, it seems, going into the offseason that everyone's talking about. I don't know why you would want that as your big free agent signing. All due respect to Paul George, but he is getting older every year, and his best years are behind him.
Yeah. Today has definitely had a different tone to it.
After that yawn, man. After that yawn, I just went for it. I also think, just to detour real quick, I got new furniture in my house. I reckon they're putting off fumes, man, because I'm feeling funny as. I've had some headaches.
I feel like you should
I'm
go.
a little bit tired, but I'm not tired.
I feel like you should go crack a window or something and maybe go for a walk around the block.
It's pretty dark.
Just to avoid tripping over black cats, all right, in the dark, all right. But,
yeah. Oh my God, they're everywhere.
But let's just go back to the last statement you made. So you're saying nobody wants Paul George. That's how I translated it. Yeah. You don't think any of the 30 franchises out there, including the Clippers, should give Paul George, millions and millions more dollars here for a couple more years, what's left of his career, and he's still productive. Was he not an all-star? I think this year somehow.
I don't know if maybe all-stars. You know what? I don't think all-stars is the barometer anymore. I'm really tired of us using all-stars as like this career accolade. All right, all it meant was you played really well for like 40 games. Right? Even though it's
wait. So you don't want players on your team that actually play really well? What's the barometer then here?
No. What I'm saying is he played really well for 40 games. He gets the selection. Then we were like, oh, he's an all-star.
Okay.
And we're like,
and then he just doesn't try for the other 40 games. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, it's not that he doesn't try for the other 40. It's just that, like, if he's truly as great as he's supposed to be, why does his team always seem to get eliminated in the first round?
But that's the same statement for 29 teams.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Right? I just don't. Why would you chuck this man $150, $200 million for 4 years? I'm sorry, I just don't see it. Okay.
Well, wouldn't Philly? Because you were talking about. Well, we talked about Philly. Who are the teams with cap space? Philly, Orlando, and OKC. And last week we touched upon LeBron, and I said there's none of those three teams have any appeal for LeBron, nor do they want LeBron. But that said, would not the Magic go 3 years of Paul George be something that would help them get out of the first round? And that's a big if. I'm not saying we should make this move. I'm not saying that at all, okay? Because, by the time the playoffs roll around, Paul George is injured probably. That's probably a high probability of that's greater than 15%, okay? But the point here is that it's still, though we have cap space, okay, would you not throw it to a player like that that's still productive? You said it, for 40 games, well, at least at a minimum here, yeah, and got enough votes to get to All-Star game by the coaches, and put him next to like Banchero and Wagner.
You get rid of Wagner. You get rid of Wagner.
We got money. We don't need to get rid of anyone. We got money. We got cap space. That's the key, right?
You blow it up. I'm in blow it up mode right now. I don't care who it is, what's going on. No, look, I think the big issue with Paul George going there is that, well, Paul George has to want to go there, right? And I think one underrated thing that we don't talk about when it comes to free agent signings, when you're good enough to pick your destination, because I think we often hear the big names pick their destinations. Most players in the NBA don't get to pick where they go. They take the best available offer, so they're not really picking where they go. They're taking their opportunity, or they end up, staying put, or they end up out of the league. Paul George can pick where he wants to go. Does he really want to go to Orlando? right?
Well, I don't know
Which,
Paul George personally, but let's say he wants to
well,
leave the West. Let's pretend I am Paul George. Okay, here's some thoughts that could go through my head if I was
this
Paul George.
is,
Okay,
well, hold
one,
on for a sec.
one, one. My best player on my team here is Kawhi, and he's banged up more than me. Yeah. Okay. Two, the Clippers are not going to win a championship how it's currently constructed, and I'm now getting old, so I need to go to a team that has a chance to win. Okay. Three. Okay, the Orlando Magic are an up and coming team that could do with a shooter, and I fill that position correctly or properly, and if they could do with some vet leadership. Four, they're in the East, which is the weaker conference too. Yeah, right now, obviously, I think the East, if you could put a few more pieces with the Magic and some optimism here that I have not really shared all season round for the Magic, let's be clear, is applied, that maybe they could jump into the top four and be that sort of take that leap potentially into next season. All right. And five, the biggest one probably here that players make decisions about 100%, whether we like it or not, is that if we can make him the best offer out there to leave LA, why would you not consider it? Yeah, that's the thing.
So first off, I didn't realize that we had podcast P on the pod. This is probably the greatest crossover. This is what probably blows up the channel now. So that's the exposure we needed. So thank you for coming on. Two, you're really talking about yourself sort of in the third person for a little bit too much of that exercise. So I don't really know how much of you is Paul George on this one. Look, all valid points. I think obviously Paul George has to realize at some point in his career, similar to James Harden, similar to Westbrook, that and even Chris Paul to a degree, titles are hard to get. Their window is pretty small or is getting smaller year by year. And so, what do they do with their career? How do they define their career? There's lots of great players that never won a championship. And right now, all four of them are slated to be in that group by the end of it, really. So, for Paul George, does he want to get huge payday, you know, on top of what he's already gotten and go to a really young
Well,
team, help develop them?
if Paul George
Is
wants a
that
championship, he's unrestricted free agent from what I understand, yeah? If he wants a championship, picks up the phone, he calls Sam Presti at the OKC Thunder, which I think he already has a relationship with because he was at OKC earlier, and he goes, "Hey, I want to join your group here that's clearly an up and coming that's even half my value." Yeah, OKC
well,
have the salary space to give him an offer,
imagine
and they just give him something that's half, and he wants to go and join a contender, and he plays
then
behind the young and up and coming players. He wins a six man of the year potentially.
Well, I'd actually say he'd be starting caliber sort of player for one. Two, you look at the Gordon Hayward contract that they traded for, who is having no impact on their roster now. That was not because he's going to be a part of their future. That was because they offloaded contracts that were multiple years to get back Gordon Hayward on an expiring.
Yep.
And so that opens up 30 million for him. So that's not as unfathomable as any of the other things that we've talked about this evening. And just to like flip it in there, how hilarious would it be if the Clippers and OKC do this trade and then in 4 years' time, the Clippers have nothing and OKC have the 8 draft picks and 2 best players out of that trade? That would be absolutely crazy. It's crazy enough that it's probably the most believable thing we've said this evening. So well done for you getting there for us because I probably wasn't going to get there.
I feel like you. I don't know. Are you a Clippers fan? Are you a Lakers or Clippers man right now? I just feel like I just need to know this just for fact
Do
checking.
you have to pick a side? Do you
Yeah.
have to? Oh wow, I feel like this is too much. The Lob City Clippers are really exciting, and I did get myself a CP3 jersey, and it was right around the time when I was a late teenager, so I could really pull off some nifty dunks like Blake Griffin did on a lowered hoop. So that was a real good time of my life. Thanks for getting us back there. But I feel
So
like the Lakers overall, there's just so many.
Lakers.
You know,
So
you
the
have
answer
like
is Lakers.
Kobe.
Is the answer Lakers correct? Because I would
Yeah,
tell
I
you my
guess it
answers
is.
is Lakers too. Yeah. If you ask me to choose one of those two jerseys, yeah, I'm saying I'm rocking a Lakers one. Give me a Kobe one, like you said. Okay. Um, Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue in that sense. And I think here it's clearly evident that you have no Clippers love, suggesting that doomsday scenario of what's happened here with this whole Kawhi and PG trade that then yielded SGA to the Thunder and all those draft picks as well. Yeah, man, it's maybe that's just how the landscape goes, right? And we're seeing that in Brooklyn right now too, that they gave up all those things for all these superstars that yield them really not that many wins. And where are they now? They're like in wilderness right now.
I think I want to give you a shout out just for putting up with me this evening. I feel like I've tried to really I've probably treated you like a toddler treats their parents at Disneyland. I've really tried to pull you in any direction, and you stayed the course on that one. So I've pretty much changed every playoff predictor. So that's a thing. But then I went back to Minnesota, so I really only changed Indy.
So
And
just
I've
let's
pretty much
just
blown up the league, and everything's a conspiracy. But let's.
so
How do
just
we summarize?
just to summarize, one last wrap, just to wrap you, one last chance to jump off a bandwagon if you wish. All right, Celtics to win it all.
If Kristaps is healthy, no, I think Denver's probably. I think Minnesota's going to beat Denver, but I think Denver wins the championship, and I'm going to leave it at that. That's how it's going to go.